Yo, what's going on, world? It's your homeboy Cuff with the Unusual Monsters True Crimes Podcast. And today we back with part 2 of the Toolbox Killers. That's the right name, right? Yeah, the Toolbox Killers part 2. Now, we did say it's going to be a part 2 type thing, but it's probably going to be a 3-part. Because this shit long as hell. But we're going to make sure we get this posted by tomorrow, and we'll have the other one for y'all next week on Tuesday. But yeah, once again, it's your homeboy P Cuff. Well, this Cuff, man, I took the P out. It's your homeboy Cuff with the Unusual Monsters Podcast.
And your girl T, what's going on, y'all?
All right, so we're going to pick up where we left off at. For those who've seen the last episode, if you haven't seen the last episode, it'll only make sense for you to go back and check that one out, you know what I mean? Because you're kind of missing part of the story. But yeah, man, pick up where we left off at.
Okay, well, if you guys that did listen, remember we were talking about Ray and motherfucking Lawrence, the two psycho killers that like met in jail.
You gonna eat your cornbread.
Horrible, horrible fucking people. And we left off with the motherfucking van that they had got, creeper van, the motherfucking murder mag. And we was about to dive into the real shit, the murders, because remember they had a long extensive past. So let's get into it.
And that's why it's going to be a 3-part episode.
Yeah. All right. So, from February to June 1979, Bittaker and Norris picked up over 20 female hitchhikers. The pair did not assault these girls in any manner. These were practical runs for them to develop ways to lure girls into the van voluntarily and discovering scheduled locations or secluded locations. So they was basically practicing and running with 20 girls. Like, girls, y'all were lucky. Who knew? Y'all didn't even know how lucky y'all were. Lord. In late April, the pair found an isolated fire road in the San Gabriel Mountains. Bittaker broke open the lock gate with a crowbar and replaced the lock with one he owned. So he was setting up his little booby trap. This is where they're going to take everybody to do what they do. All right.
It's so crazy to me how these people, you know, they go through this whole process of setting things up and thinking it through, and it don't cross their mind. It's 2 of them, too. It don't cross their mind like, maybe we should do this.
Hell no, like they just have been thinking about this shit for years. Maybe they playing this shit.
Yeah. They was on it for a long time, and that's why I really be feeling like these people need to have mental evaluations even more than go to prison. You know what I'm saying?
And then you remember both of them did. So what the fuck?
Yeah, they was slipping. Yeah.
The fuck y'all do?
Okay, so now we're gonna get into our victims. First up is Lucinda Lynn Schaefer. Bittaker and Norris killed their first victim, 16-year-old Lucinda Lynn Schaefer, on June 24th, 1979. Schaefer was last seen leaving a shit, I can't say.
Oh man, am I fucking stoned?
Fuck, we really... Anyway, a church meeting in Redondo Beach. In his written account of events, Bittaker stated he and Norris first finished constructing the bed the pair had installed in the rear of the van. So they put a bed back there, beneath which they placed tools, hence the toolbox killer name,
Right.
clothes, and a cooler filled with beer and soft drinks, because, you know, gotta have something to get them comfortable. At approximately 11 a.m., the pair drove to the beach area, drinking beer, smoking, Mary Jane! And flirting with girls. We had no, this is, so I gotta quote this, they had no set routine, is what he says. At around 7:46 p.m., Norris spotted Schaefer walking down a side street and remarked to Bittaker, and I quote, "There's a cute little blonde, creepy as fuck," end quote. After unsuccessfully attempting to entice Schaefer into their van with offers of Mary Jane and a ride home, Bittaker and Norris drove further ahead and parked alongside a driveway. Norris then exited the van, opened the passenger side sliding door, so you know they was practicing on how to grab a motherfucker, and leaned into the van with his head and shoulders obscured from view behind the door. So he was like kind of like he was doing some shit in the van type deal. When Schaefer passed the van, Norris exchanged a few words with her before dragging her into the van and closing the door. Norris turned the radio to full volume and as Norris bound the victim's arms and legs and gagged her with duct tape, as Bittaker drove Schaefer to the fire road in San Gabriel Mountains, where in April the pair had previously switched the locks. So,
Yo, these people are so sick, man. It's just it's
Ooh.
crazy. I would never get past how crazy these stories are. The shit people do, the whole process of it.
The human mind is
It's
fucked.
like,
It's
come
so
on,
complex and fucked. And
man.
man, this is where that viewer and discretion listener warning comes in. Despite initially screaming when she was abducted, Schaefer quickly regained her composure. So she like, I gotta play it cool, hoping she could get up out of here. In his written account of the night that followed, Bittaker wrote that Schaefer displayed a magnificent. So even pause, how he wrote words the shit is like damn near it's sick. Continue. State she showed a magnificent state of self-control and composed an acceptance of the conditions of which she had no control. She shed no tears, offered no resistance, and expressed no great concern for safety. So this is Whitaker saying this about the young lady. I guess she knew what was coming.
Yeah.
That's so sad. At the fire road, Norris first raped Schaefer and instructing Bittaker to, and I quote, go take a walk and return in 1 hour. Once Bittaker returned from his walk, he would go on to rape Schaefer while Norris was gone. Upon the second occasion in which she was raped by Norris in Bittaker's absence, Schaefer asked him whether they intended to kill her, to which Norris replied, no. In response, Schaefer requested to be allowed time to pray before she was killed, if that is what Bittaker and Norris was, if that was their intention, she wanted to pray. In his accounts of the actual murder, Bittaker and Norris gave differing accounts as to who argued over whether they should kill her rather than release her. Each stated the other argued they should kill her. So they basically, when they did get caught, they
blamed each other, right?
In any event, Schaefer pleaded for only a second to pray before Norris attempted to manually strangle her. After about 45 seconds, he became disturbed at the look in her eyes and ran to the front of the van and he threw up. Bittaker then manually strangled her, so he went ahead and strangled her, Schaefer, until she collapsed to the ground and began convulsing. He then twisted a wire coat hanger around her neck with vice grip pliers until Schaefer's convulsions stopped. Schaefer was denied her request to pray before Bittaker and Norris killed her. Schaefer's body was wrapped in a plastic shower curtain and thrown over a steep canyon Bittaker had selected. According to Norris, after Bittaker had thrown Schaefer over the canyon, Bittaker assured him the animals would eat her up so there wouldn't be any evidence left. That is a cruel way to die.
Yo, they are disgusting people. Oh my god! Like, yeah, even hear you talking about, I'm just like kind of grabbing my stomach, like, ugh, like. The one dude, I guess he got a semi-conscience, or he just couldn't stomach it, so he chilled, whatever was in front. And the other dude picked her right where he left off at, put the wire around her neck, all that, like, with the vice grip, like, the whole, like, oh, man.
All right. So next is Andrea Joy Hall. On July 8, 1979, 2 weeks after the murder of Schaefer, Bittaker and Norris encountered 18-year-old Andrea Hall by hitchhiking along the Pacific Coast Highway. As the pair slowed the van to offer her a lift, another car pulled over.
Yeah, I'm like, hold on, that car pulled up.
Yeah.
Don't tell me it's a woman driving that car and they finna kill both of them. Man, like, hold on now, what's going on?
Right, another car pulled over in Hall. What? I'll write this, y'all. I think I wrote that wrong. It just says they pulled over in Hall. And the girl accepted the ride. Shit. It wasn't another car. They pulled over. I wrote that wrong. Excuse me. I'm going to write that out. Bittaker and Norris followed the car from a distance with Hall. Oh, I did write that right. No, another car pulled up before they got to her, and then she accepted the ride from the first car. So these two fools followed. God damn it, that's what happened.
All right, there we go.
All right. Followed the car from a distance until Hall exited the car in Redondo Beach. On this occasion, Norris hid in the back of the van in order to dope Hall into believing Bittaker was traveling alone. So he was trying to make it seem like there was only one person in the van. Inside the van, Bittaker offered Hall a cold drink from the cooler in the rear of the van. Norris, who had hidden behind a bedspread in the rear of the van, pounced on Hall when she attempted to retrieve the drink, and after a fight, managed to subdue her by twisting her arm behind her back, causing her to scream in pain. Norris then gagged Hall with adhesive tape and bound her wrists and ankles. Bittaker and Norris would drive Hall to a location in the San Gabriel Mountains beyond where they had earlier taken Schaefer, so a little bit further on. Once there, Hall was raped twice by Bittaker and once by Norris. While Bittaker was raping Hall for the second time, Norris saw what he believed to be a car headlights approaching. Bittaker put his hand over Hall's mouth and dragged her into a nearby bush as Norris drove in an unsuccessful search.
I used to
for the
always
car he
say
thought he
before
had
listening,
seen.
like before we started doing this and just hearing the like true crime type stuff, right? I used to always think like the people who do these type of things are like heartless and all of that, but and I hate to keep saying it, but I really feel like it's just some serious mental issues there. You know what I'm saying? And I hope that these days or in the soon future they find better ways to catch it earlier in these kids because a lot of these people don't have like these two, for example, they had medical evaluations and everything, and
they were diagnosed.
you know what I mean, and they still were to let out in the world like regular people. And I hate saying the word regular, like they're not regular, but for lack of better words.
Right. All right. So the one dragged her into the bushes. The other one tried to chase after what he thought he seen headlights. So he didn't find nobody. When he returned, the pair drove to the location further in San Gabriel Mountains. So they go a little deeper out there. Bittaker forced Hall to walk uphill naked alongside the road and to then perform oral sex on him before ordering Hall to pose for several Polaroid pictures.
Wait, the dude made the other dude perform oral sex on him?
No, the girl that they had.
Oh, okay. I'm like,
So after they
whoa.
thought somebody was coming, nobody was there. They
Yeah.
drove a little deeper in the mountains. They made her walk up the fucking shit naked and basically just mutilate. Ooh, like that's like it's so much torture before they actually. I would just want to be kidnapped. Just go ahead, rape me and kill me. Like they are doing too much. Like Bittaker and Norris drove Hall to a third location where Bittaker again walked Hall up a nearby hill, this time as Norris drove to a local store to buy alcohol. When Norris returned, Bittaker was alone and in possession of two more Polaroid pictures he had taken, both of which depicted Hall's face and in expression Norris later described as being of, and I quote, sheer terror, as she begged for her life to be spared. Bittaker would tell Norris that he had told Hall he was going to kill her and challenged her to give him as many reasons as she could as to why she should be allowed to live before thrusting an ice pick through her ear into her brain.
That's like some of the worst torture. You gonna act like there's a possibility you gonna actually let her go, and she's sitting here pleading you and giving you these reasons, and the whole time you just know, regardless what she says, you're gonna kill her anyway. Like, that's just
horrible
sick, man.
Human beings, like they are fucking horrible. Like I don't know how it ain't no movies, no Lifetime movies about this shit. Maybe it's because it's so goddamn graphic. But if they show Dahmer, they could show this. But, ooh. Anyway, and then the ice pick thing, like I just damn near almost feel that going through my head. It's right. Horrible. Like ah. He then turned her body over and thrust the ice pick into her other ear, stomping on it until this is so graphic. Shit, the handle broke. Bittaker then strangled Hall before throwing her body off a cliff. What the fuck was the need to strangle her? I'm pretty sure she was dead as fuck.
Yeah, she had to be. I mean, he done stomped the ice pick through her ear, right?
Both sides. He went through both. Like,
come on, man. Overkill. Gotta
just
relax, man. These dudes are just straight sick.
Getting off.
This
on
might be
shit.
This probably the most graphic one we had so far. This is crazy.
I know I said a couple episodes before, but it took me a long time just to finish this shit. Like, oh. So next is Jackie Doris Gillum, and Jacqueline Leach Lamp. On September 3rd, Bittaker and Norris observed two girls, Jackie Gillum and Jacqueline Lamp, sitting on a bus stop beach near Hermosa Beach. Lamp and Gillum had been hitchhiking along the Pacific coast before Bittaker and Norris had spotted them. They had stopped to take a rest on the bus stop. Bittaker and Norris offered the girls and ride, which they accepted. Ladies, once again, I'm sorry, we have to protect ourselves. You cannot, you cannot, cannot. Back then, now, you cannot. You know what I'm saying? But okay. Oh, man. Once in the van, the girls were offered some Mary Jane, and both girls accepted the party favor. Shortly after getting in the van, both girls realized that Bittaker had steered the van off the Pacific Coast Highway and was driving in the directions of the San Gabriel Mountains. When the girls protested, both Bittaker and Norris attempted to calm the girls' concerns with excuses that neither girls ended up believing. Lamp 13 attempted to open the sliding door, but Norris hit her on the back of the head with the bag filled with lead weights, briefly knocking her unconscious before overpowering 15-year-old Gillum. Lamp regained consciousness and again attempted to flee the van. Norris twisted her arm behind her back and dragged her back into the van. As this struggle continued, Bittaker, noting the girl's struggle was in full view of potential witnesses, so they in broad daylight, stopped the van, punched Gillum in the face, and assisted Norris in finishing binding and gagging the two girls.
Man, I was hoping at first like it was two girls and they got a little aware. Maybe one of them maybe got away or something. But once you said 15, I'm like, oh, these are like some little girls.
Mm-hmm. Gillum and Lamp were taken to the San Gabriel Mountains where they were bound and gagged and between repeated instances of sexual and physical abuse for 2 days. Both men slept in the van alongside the two girls as they alternated as lookout. That is fucking torture. That is horrible. Just to be trapped and they're gonna just know you're gonna die. Like that's horrible. Like kill me right away, man. Fuck.
You said they was doing what while the other one looked out?
So one would sleep next to the girls inside the van, and then one would be lookout up front, and then
right.
They would alternate.
Just throughout the night, basically,
throughout the
right?
night, they did this for 2 days. Both men slept in the van alongside. I already said that. On one occasion, Bittaker walked Lamp onto a nearby hill and forced her to pose for some pornographic photos. And I think they were keeping all this shit, if I'm not mistaken. Before returning her to the van, Bittaker also asked Norris to take several pictures of himself and Gillum, both nude and clothed. Fucking creeps,
man, I can never get past how crazy these people are, man.
Fucking
how
creeps.
Mentally unstable these people are. It's sickening, man.
The first 3 times in which Bittaker raped Gillum, he also created a tape recording of himself raping her, forcing the girl to pretend she was his cousin, and informing Gillum to feel free to express her pain. Bittaker also tortured Gillum by stabbing her breast with an ice pick and using vice grip pliers to tear off part of her nipple. like, y'all, like, oh my goodness. Yeah, just horrible.
This is definitely the most graphic one we've had. I feel like in comparison to the one you said was the most graphic before, that one don't even touch this one. This is crazy.
If
like
I had known I was gonna come
I'm very much a loss for words for a lot of the things that you saying about these people. Honestly, like it's a little.
I down there getting a little emotional reading this because it's just horrible and just like I'm imagining like this. Obviously I don't know that pain, but
they were just doing so much. It was so much torture, and it was crazy. But go ahead.
After 2 days of captivity, Lamp and Gillum were murdered. Gillum was struck in each ear with an ice pick and then strangled to death. After Bittaker had murdered Gillum, he then forced Lamp out of the van. As she was forced out of the van door, Bittaker shouted to her, "You wanted to what? You wanted to stay a virgin. Now you can die a virgin." That is horrible. That is horrible.
Wait, they raped both of them, right? Or
they did.
They raped both of them, yeah. Right?
Yeah,
so he even said that, like, what the heck? But yeah, either way.
Before Norris struck her upon the head with a sledgehammer, Bittaker then strangled Lamp until he believed she had died. When Lamp opened her eyes, Norris again bludgeoned her repeatedly. First of all, I don't know how she survived the first hit with a sledgehammer. as Bittaker strangled her to death. The bodies of Gillum and Lamp were then thrown over an embankment into the chaparral, which is like a little, some shrubs and shit. I had to look up what the fuck that was.
Right.
Yeah, some little shrubs. All right. The final victim, Shirley Lynette Letford. Bittaker and Norris abducted their final victim, 16-year-old Shirley Lynette Linford, on October 31st, 1979. Ledford was abducted as she stood outside a gas station hitchhiking home from a Halloween party in the Sandland, Toowoomba suburb of LA. I hope I said that right. And first of all, she only 16, and I mean, I guess different times. I don't know. Hell no, I wouldn't do it now, but I guess. Police believe she accepted a ride home from Bittaker and Norris because she recognized Bittaker, as he is known to have frequented the restaurant in which Lefford held. She had a part-time job there, so I think he was kind of stalking her. She was a waitress. After accepting the ride home and entering the van,
What time period was it again? I'm sorry. What time period was it?
70s, 60s.
Okay.
70s.
I'm thinking like, is this probably still way back there? Okay.
After
I don't care if it's way. I'm sorry once again, but I don't care how way far back it is and everything. To me, it's just too crazy how loose people were back then. I just, and maybe because we live in today's time, so we view things differently. You know what I'm saying? But like
a motherfucker.
yeah, I just don't. I could never see where people would think that's okay. You know what I'm saying? Like it's a little more understandable in small towns. I do get that. I get it. It'd be like a whole family feel type thing.
They had their doors open down there.
Yeah, so I get it, but being where I'm from, it's hard for me to not look at that still as a little crazy, you know. Go ahead though.
Yeah. So the police believe Leffert accepted a ride home from Bittaker and Norris because she recognized Bittaker, as he is known to have frequently the restaurant she worked in as a part-time job as waitress. After accepting the ride home and entering the van, Leffert was offered Mary Jane by Norris, which she refused. Bittaker drove the van to a secluded street where Norris drew a knife, then bound and gagged Leffert with a construction tape. So I feel like each time the tape get a little upgraded.
Yeah, they definitely was switching it up here and there. They didn't have like a set thing.
Bittaker then traded places with Norris, who drove in an aimless manner for about an hour as Bittaker remained with Ledford. So they really didn't have no plan for this last girl.
This one sounded like they just was on the spot.
Bullshit in the back of the van. After removing the tape from the girl's mouth and legs, Bittaker tormented Ledford. He would slap and mark her, and then beating her with his fist as he repeatedly shouted for her to say something. Then, as Ledford began screaming, shouting for her to scream louder.
Yeah, he the one. He was the one. Every time I think, if I remember correctly, the last situation he was like, he the same one that was like, "Yo, give me reasons why I shouldn't kill you," and he wanted the other girl. You can express your pain. Mm-hmm. He gets off on knowing that they're in pain, mentally, physically, whatever it may be. He really get off. That's sick, man.
And the funny thing is, this is Bittaker that's doing that. And if you remember back in the early days, Bittaker wasn't even the one he wasn't doing the sexual assault shit. So he didn't really just came up out his fucking shell. As Ledford continued screaming, Bittaker began asking her as he struck her, "What's the matter? Don't you like to scream?" As Ledford began to cry, she pleaded with Bittaker, repeatedly saying, "No, don't touch me." In response, Bittaker again ordered her to scream as loud as she wished, then began alternatingly striking her with a hammer, beating her breast with his fist, and torturing her with pliers, both between and throughout instances where he raped and sodomized her.
Man.
Ledford would repeatedly plead for the abuse to stop, saying things like, "Oh no, no." As sounds of Bittaker alternately extracting either the sledgehammer or the pliers from the toolbox can be heard on a tape recorder, he switched on after entering the rear of the van. So he was recording this shit the whole time.
I ain't gonna lie, I'm happy this is a 3-part because
yeah,
it's a
lot. It's heavy.
It's heavy, so man. Lord, it's
so. Norris later described hearing screams, constant screams, coming from the rear of the van as he drove. After Norris switched places with Bittaker, he himself switched on the tape recorder that Bittaker had used to record much of the time he had been in the back of the van with Ledford. Norris first shouted for Ledford to go ahead and scream, or I'll make you scream. In response, Ledford pleaded, I'll scream if you stop hitting me. Then she would let out a high pitched scream, as Norris encouraged her to continue until he ordered her to stop.
It's like she caught on that he got off more
Yeah.
with the screaming and whatever than anything else, maybe. So she was like basically, okay, I'll make a deal.
Maybe she was,
I'll scream if you stop, because she wanted to stop getting hit.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
Buy some time too, probably.
Yeah, buy a little time.
Norris then reached for a sledgehammer, which Ledford sees him doing, so she screamed, oh no. Norris then struck Ledford once on the side on her left elbow. In response, she tells Norris he had broken her elbow before pleading, don't hit me again. In response, Norris again raised the sledgehammer and Ledford repeatedly screamed no. Then Norris will go on to strike Ledford 25. Hold on.
Man, this shit made my stomach feel weird. That's why I had to roll up again, because like, ugh, man.
25 times on the same elbow before asking her, what are you sniveling about? As she continued to scream and cry. After about 2 hours of being captured, Norris killed Ledford by strangling her with a wire coat hanger, which he tightened with pliers. Bittaker then opted to discard her body on a random lawn in order to view the reaction from the press. The pair drove to a random house in Sandlord, in Sandland, in Sunland, where Norris discarded Ledford's body in the bed of ivy upon the front lawn. So he literally just dropped his baby off in somebody's.
They was
These
wild
are
into a
horrible
whole
human beings, like devil, demons, scum of the earth, just fucking horrible. Ledford's body would be found the next morning by a jogger. An autopsy revealed that in addition to having been sexually violated, she had died of strangulation after receiving extensive blunt force trauma to the face, head, breast, and left elbow, with her also sustaining multiple fractures in her genitalia and rectum had been torn, caused in part by Bittaker having inserted pliers inside her body. Oh my God. In addition, her left hand had a puncture wound and a finger on her right hand had been slashed. Like,
they are
parents.
just.
I wonder how these parents. That is.
I wouldn't even want to know details. Like for real. I wouldn't want to know if
I wouldn't want to see my baby like that. Not at all.
Nah, I'm cool.
Not
I
at all.
not to
Closed
sound
casket,
mean or bad,
everything.
but like honestly, I just couldn't. I'm cool. I wouldn't want to know the details. And if like, oh yeah, you gotta identify the body. I'm gonna have to have somebody else do it. I wouldn't be able to see, like, you know what I'm saying, like all that damage. Like that's a lot. That's a lot, man.
Bittaker would later claim that the tape recording of Ledford's clear abuse and torture offered nothing other than the evidence of a threesome, adding that toward the very end, Ledford was screaming for him and Norris to kill her. So I was thinking, I don't know if we should leave it off there, because next they get into like the investigation and how they got caught.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's a good spot to leave it at. We're
you know
around
what I'm
30 minutes
saying?
too, so we probably got a good 20 minutes left.
Yeah, maybe 25, maybe another 30.
Man, it's 3-part. So man, once again, it's your homeboy Cuffed.
And your girl T.
That's part 2. It's gonna be a 3-part episode of the Toolbox Killers. As y'all see, it's heating up. You know what I mean? In a very disgusting way.
Man.
You know what I mean? A very disgusting way. But we appreciate y'all stopping in with us. If you have not watched part 1, make sure y'all check out part 1. And just remember, part 2 is coming soon. This is the Unusual Monsters True Crime Podcast. Remember, we are on all podcast listening platforms, including YouTube. But one more time, the homeboy Cuff.
And your girl T.
We'll see y'all back for part 3.